Recording in progress.
This is like my relax. Sure. Yeah. Water easy. Yeah. But yeah, when it gets to be like cheese on it, that's.
We on?
No.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome Billy Lowe with the City Church of Milton to give our invocation.
Thank you. If you don't mind, let's begin in prayer. Father, we are so grateful for the opportunity to gather together in this city that we all call home. Lord, I pray that you'd bless this city. As Jeremiah 29 says, that we would seek the welfare of the city that you have sent us. And as we do, God, you would help us to flourish, that you would help our city to continue to grow in every way that it needs to. Lord, that you would make us a blessing on one another and protect us. God, I pray that you would give wisdom where it is needed and that you, God, would help human flourishing happen out of this city into all the cities around us. Lord, would you make us an example, a light? And God, we're just asking that tonight and every day that you would use us for your glory and for whatever means that you would have for us. So God, would you bless tonight? Would you be glorified in our lives? And may we honor you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. I would like to call the regular meeting of the Milton City Council for Monday, April 11th, 2022 to order. The city strongly recommends that you review tonight's agenda carefully, and if you wish to speak on any item on the agenda, then please bring your comment cards to the clerk as soon as possible. While the Milton rules allow a speaker to turn in their comment card up until the clerk calls the agenda item, once the agenda item is called, no more comment cards can be accepted. Will the city clerk please call roll and make general announcements?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll be happy to call roll for the April 11th, 2022 regular meeting. I would like to remind those in attendance to please silence all cell phones at this time. Those attending the meeting who would like to make a comment, you are required to complete a public comment card prior to speaking on the item. Your comment card must be presented to the city clerk prior to the agenda item being called. All speakers, please identify yourself by name, address, and organization before beginning your comment. If you are representing an organization, an affidavit is required stating you have the authority to speak on behalf of that organization. Please review tonight's agenda, and if you would like to make a comment, please bring your comment card to me now. Demonstration of any sort within the chamber is prohibited. Please refrain from any applause, cheering, booing, outburst, or dialogue with any person speaking. Anyone in violation will be asked to leave. As I call roll this evening, please confirm your attendance. Mayor Peyton Jamison.
Here.
Councilmember Andrea Veerhoff.
Here.
Councilmember Paul Moore.
Here.
Councilmember Juliette Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Jan Jacobus.
Here.
And for the record, Mayor, Councilmember Crookley and Councilmember Moore are absent. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the city clerk please stay on the next item?
Mayor, that next item is approval of the meeting agenda, agenda item number 22115. Mayor?
Thank you. Council, I would like to add an executive session to discuss land acquisition, potential litigation, and personnel. I'd like to open it for a motion.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we add an executive session for the reasons that you stated this evening.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Moore and a second from Councilmember Verhoff. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. Next is general public comment. City Clerk, do we have any public comment this evening?
We do not have any general.
Okay,
Just
thank you.
Checking to make sure.
All good. So I'll waive the public comment and ask the clerk to call the next item.
Mayor, the next item is the consent agenda. I'd like to call those out now. For item A, it's approval of the March 21st, 2022 regular city council meeting, agenda item number 22116. Item B, approval of financial statements and investment reports for period 5, February 2022, agenda item number 22117. Item C, approval of an agreement between the City of Milton and Judy Hall to provide a weekly Milton Community Farmers Market located at City Hall's Plaza from April through October 2022. Agenda item number 22118. Item D is approval of an agreement between the City of Milton and Dynamo Pool Management, Inc. to provide pool management and maintenance, lifeguard support, and learn to swim programming at the Milton Pool. Agenda item number 22119. Item E is approval of a task order between City of Milton and BM&K PC to provide construction inspection services for land development activities. Agenda item number 22120. Item F is approval of an agreement for alarm monitoring services at the former Milton Country Club between the City of Milton and American Alarm Corporation. Agenda item number 22121. Item G is approval of a task order between the City of Milton and Low Engineers LLC to provide chief building official for plan review services. Agenda item number 22122. Item F, approval of a recreation provider agreement between the City of Milton and Hopewell Youth Association to provide youth baseball programming. Agenda item number 22123. Item I, approval of a recreation provider agreement between the City of Milton and North Georgia Recreation to provide youth boys lacrosse programming. Agenda item number 22124. Item J is approval of a construction services agreement with Wilson Construction Management, LLC, for asphalt multi-use path and stormwater improvements on New Providence Road. Agenda item number 22125. Our final consent item, K, is approval of a recreation provider agreement between the City of Milton and Milton Mustang Swim Team to provide youth swim programming. It's agenda item number 22126. Mayor Jameson.
Do I have a motion on the consent agenda?
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as read.
Second?
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Jacobus and a second from Councilmember Johnson to approve the consent agenda as read. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. So we'll move on to reports and presentations. Will the city clerk please sound the first item?
Mayor, that item is recognition of Milton Citizens Government Academy graduates, 5th cohort. Mr. Tom McElveen, Parks and Rec Director.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight you'll meet the participants of our 5th cohort of the Citizens Government Academy, which started at the end of January. Every week at different locations throughout the city, department heads have taught them about their respective departments. They've learned about police and fire, finance, parks and recreation, public works, community development, and more. The Citizens Government Academy allows department staff to teach about their department, educate citizens about city functions while getting to know and learning from Milton's interested, knowledgeable, and engaged citizens. This amazing class was no different, full of enthusiastic students who are eager to learn more about their city. They contributed by asking great questions, providing unique perspectives, and problem-solving ideas. I want to thank these students for choosing to spend their valuable free time learning about our city. I want to also thank my fellow staff members for teaching their departments information, and finally, council and city management for allowing and encouraging programs such as Citizens Government Academy that build and foster the relationships that strengthens Milton's exceptional sense of community. You'll meet the rest of the class shortly, but allow me to introduce two members of this class, Steve Corey and Sharice Browner. Steve was an engaged class member and heads up the Milton Volunteer Fire Corps. Sharice is a newer member of our community, eager to get more involved, recently moving to Milton from LA. Steve and Sharice are going to speak on behalf of the Citizens Government Academy. Steve?
Thank you,
Tom. I'll make it brief. I thoroughly enjoyed the Citizens Government Academy, excuse me. I want to encourage all citizens of Milton to participate in this wonderful opportunity to engage the city and all its employees. I want to say thank you, especially to the presenters, but also to everyone who participated. I would note that my favorite moment was visiting the fire station, but that would be biased.
Oh, come on.
That's right. But it was a tremendous learning opportunity to understand the comprehensive plan for 2040 and how we're building a community. And I think that's the thing that's impressed me most in reading the website, reading the plans and so on, is that the community, the word community appears everywhere. And as community members, residents, and volunteers, I think we are participating in that community, not just living here. So again, I'd like to thank everyone. Wonderful opportunity, highly recommended course. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have to put on my eyes. Hi, I'd like to thank the City of Milton for providing an excellent opportunity to learn more about the city governance process and what makes Milton a great place to live. I moved to Milton, Georgia from Los Angeles in September of 2020 in the midst of the COVID pandemic. And I quickly knew that this was going to be my home for a very long time as I fell in love with the natural beauty and the rural nature of the city, the kind and welcoming people, the family-oriented lifestyle, and the vast opportunities that the city provides. I also was very pleased to learn about the diversity of Milton's residents. I quickly gained a sense of community ownership as not only a homeowner, but a business owner as well. And I realized that in order to participate in the growth of my new city that I like to call home, is to be involved to help the city remain prosperous. The Citizens Government Academy provided just what I needed, an overview of what the city has to offer. We learned about the government spending habits. Milton's taxation is a little bit different than California, but I wanted to learn more about how taxpayers' dollars are spent for sustainability. I agree with that. We learned about the legislative process. It was great meeting the mayor, the city council members, and it was equally interesting to learn how receptive council is to receive ideas from its constituents. I really appreciate that. I really enjoyed learning that to increase the diversity of Milton's democracy. As we all know, democracy can be seen as the balance of different perspectives. And the more diverse perspectives are included in decision-making processes, the more balanced our democracy will be, which is one of the reasons why I do want to get involved. And to providing networking opportunities, the Citizens Academy allowed us just that with all of the various departments, and to provide a sense of community ownership through the learning about the various municipalities and how the city works through the city's academy. You are instilled with a sense of community ownership. And that was what I got from the program, and I thank you all for, allowing us to participate in it. And at this point, we're all ambassadors, and I've been telling everybody about the program. So hopefully you guys will get a lot more people in the next one.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. I know Tom's about to hand out some awards or certificates, I guess, and I just want to say thank you on behalf of the city council. We love this program. I guess this is our 5th time offering it, and hopefully we do expand it for years to come, as it's important for everyone to learn about our government, our transparency, our budgeting, and everything else about it. And I want everyone to know that we're always available all the time, and thank you again for participating.
Thanks, Mayor. At this time, I'm going to call the names of each of the Citizens Government Academy graduates. Please wait till I call all the names, and then those of you that are in attendance can come on up, grab your certificate, and then we'll come up front to take a picture. So we got Sharice Browner, Brett Cromie, Gerald Coleman, Steve Corey, Diana Gregory, Megan Kaler, Candy and Kevin Muldowney, Zach Mullins, Kirsten Musnick, Scott Minette, Jeff Richards, Scott Stahusky, Deborah Stewart, Mary Stewart, Grace Taborik, Jamie Tucker, and Mary Williams.
All right.
Y'all can just welcome Jim.
Appreciate it. Yeah, absolutely. Glad you're here. Welcome. Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure it wasn't me. Hey there, how are you? Kevin, how you doing, bud? Yeah, it's gonna be a classic.
Good stuff. Hey, I know it's going. Come on, Jan, get over here.
Sorry, I was.
I know. My friends got a couple missing council members over there. They're slacking.
Here, you know what? Can we scoot more this way? 'Cause we're a little bit uneven. Yeah, yes, yeah. Keep on. Just kind of. I'm gonna do multiple ones. Good. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all. Thanks again. Scott.
I'm just gonna.
Just told me to slow down. Will the city clerk please stay on the next item?
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
That next item is presentation from the Sons of the American Revolution honoring Milton Fire Chief, Chief Gabe Ben Musa. Mr. Krokhoff?
Thank you, Tammy. We're having Steve Corey introduce, yes?
No, you're going right into Mr. Finley.
I'm sorry, I don't have that. Can you please do that for me?
Absolutely. We would be honored to have Mr. Alan Finley come up to present this award.
I'd like to have all my compatriots join me, if you would, please. Mayor, thank you for inviting us again. 3 of these gentlemen that are joining me have been here since 15 years ago when there was the first meeting of this kind. They are behind me. Sons of the American Revolution, basically, my name is Al Finley. I'm a member of the National Society, and I'm a past president of the Piedmont chapter here that is responsible for Milton. We are an organization that honors our forefathers who basically created this country. We have several ancestors that are from each of us, male or female, that served in the Revolutionary War. And we love to honor the history of this country and the people who served it. Some were fighters. My ancestral grandfather was a spy, happened to be a Presbyterian minister, but he was a spy. And other people provided services. And in behalf of that, it is a great honor for me to honor people like the fire chief. And if the fire chief will come up, please.
He's hiding in the back.
We would like to recognize the accomplishments and innovation that the Chief Gabe Musa has employed to improve this fire department and to benefit the safety, well-being, and health of Milton citizens. It is my honor to present the chief with his certificate and medal for his appreciation for our leadership. Could I have the certificate, please? The medal that we give every police officer, fire officer, EMS service, provide service to our community like our grandfathers provided. Take some pictures.
Absolutely.
Rose between 2 thorns, right?
1 second. Go. 1, 2. Good. Thank you.
Thank you. We are very fortunate to have Chief. Okay, will the city clerk please stay on the next item?
Mayor, that next item is proclamation recognizing Earth Day 2022. Mayor?
Thank you. So it is always an honor to honor Earth Day, and we're actually celebrating it, I think, on the 22nd with our country club opening.
23rd.
23rd.
Yes.
We are celebrating it on our country club grand opening.
Yes,
So.
it's going to be an exciting event.
Absolutely. So I will read this proclamation aloud, and then we will go on to giving it out. So Earth Day 2022, whereas the first Earth Day was celebrated on April 22nd, 1970, and became recognized worldwide by 1990. And whereas every year on and around April 22nd, communities all around the world participate in outdoor and environmental stewardship activities like trail cleanup, water quality monitoring, tree planting, and sustainability events. And whereas the global theme for Earth Day 2022 is Invest in Our Planet, which highlights the collective responsibility for us all, citizens, governments, and businesses, to do our part in promoting healthy communities, habitats, and economies. And whereas the city of Milton believes in this and the importance of fostering environmental stewardship of our natural resources and promoting responsible conservation. And whereas for the past 8 years, the city of Milton has been a National Wildlife Federation certified community wildlife habitat and was recently recognized as a silver level green community by the Atlanta Regional Commission. And whereas healthy natural habitats beautify and protect our community, support the vitality of local green businesses, and are a source of joy and exploration for residents. And whereas on April 23rd, the city of Milton will host an Earth Day celebration at which people can learn about helping our planet, support green causes, see rehabilitated wildlife, sample Milton-made honey, and explore the former Milton Country Club. Now, therefore, we, the mayor and city council of the city of Milton, hereby recognize and proclaim for the year 2022, April 22nd, as Earth Day, and urge citizens to celebrate efforts to protect our planet, to make Milton an even better place to live, work, and raise a family. And further, we urge all citizens to commit to doing what they can to foster cleaner and greener environments for the betterment of current and future generations, given under my hand and seal of the city of Milton, Georgia, on this 11th day of April 2022. And we would like to welcome Caitlin Good, or Goad, is it Good? Good. We'd like to welcome you and the Urban Wildlife Program Manager with the Georgia Department of Natural Resources as part of the DNR's Wildlife Resources Division. The Urban Wildlife Program works hard to facilitate a healthy relationship between community residents and the wildlife that inhabitate our backyards. It is important to remember that it is all our responsibility to be kind to Mother Earth, and Earth Day helps us remind us all of that important endeavor. So I'd like to welcome you up, and we'll give this proclamation out. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Perfect.
Here, scoot over. Everyone scoot over a little bit this way. There we go. I'm gonna do both cameras on 3. 3, 2, 1. I'm gonna do 1, 3, 2. Good. I'm good. Thank you.
Perfect. Everyone's here for Earth Day.
Everyone was just here for Earth Day. Everyone was just waiting for Earth Day. Yes. That's crazy.
Ready?
I'm ready, Mayor.
Okay. So we'll move on to first presentations. Will the city clerk please sound the first item?
Mayor, that first item is consideration of an ordinance to amend Chapter 2, Article 5, to add a new Division 8, the Milton Trails Advisory Committee. Agenda item number 22127. Our item B is consideration of an ordinance to amend Appendix A of Chapter 34, Article 2, Section 34-24 of the Milton City Code to allow for collection of fees to rent the community center at 1785 Densmore Road and to reorganize the structure of fees. Agenda item number 22128. Mayor Jameson?
Thank you. So I will open up for a motion for first presentation.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we accept the first presentation as read.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Moore and a second from Councilmember Johnson to approve first presentation as read. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. So we have no items under public hearing, and we will move on to the zoning agenda. Will the city clerk please sound the zoning item?
Thank you, Mayor. That zoning item is consideration of U 22-01/VC 22-01 located at 13275 Cogburn Road by F.H. Schindler, Inc., doing business as Mayfield Oaks Senior Living, to request a use permit for alternative senior housing, Section 64-1844, and a three-part concurrent variance. Number 1, to allow 4 handicap spaces to be in the front of the house, Section 64-1844 to F1. Number 2, to reduce a 50-foot undisturbed buffer and 10-foot improvement setback on northern line to 25 feet, Article 20, Section 2.3.2A. Number 3, to reduce a 50-foot undisturbed rear buffer to 30 feet, Article 20, Section 2.3.2A, Agenda item number 22111. Our city manager, Mr. Stephen Krokoff.
Thank you, Tammy. Good evening, Mayor and Council. In your packet is a letter dated March 30th, 2022 from the applicant's attorney requesting a deferral of this item until May 2nd, 2022. The letter was fairly succinct and did not indicate the reasons for seeking the deferral. However, staff has informed me that the applicant is seeking opportunities to eliminate or ameliorate the concurrent variances. Before entering into a zoning hearing on the matter, the council should first consider the applicant's deferral request. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. City Clerk, do we have any public comment?
We do, Mayor.
Okay, so Ken, at this point in time, would it be appropriate for council to have public comment before the deferral? And so we have a number of citizens that want to talk and just want to make sure that's okay.
Mr. Mayor, we're not at this point in the agenda item, not actually having the zoning procedures law public hearing, but we are having public comment on the request for deferral. Mr. Mayor, that is in order. If you want to allow that public comment, that would be fine.
Okay. So would council be okay with having public comment on the deferral?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So Tammy, as we have not opened the zoning hearing, general public rules will apply. There'll be a total of 5 minutes. And can you call up the first public comment?
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to call Dennis Newman to the podium, please.
And for the record, just please state your name and address.
Dennis Newman, 2795 Glaston Way in Alpharetta, which 7 years ago, I thought that's where I was moving. And then I found out, no, I'm in Milton. So things change, hey? But it's all for the better. And I do pay my taxes on time. That's pretty important too. First of all, I want to thank all of you for the Community Development Department sending us information in regards to what was happening. I thought they did a great job. Communication is critical, especially if you're talking about a form of business moving next to our neighborhood. I actually live in the neighborhood right next door, which is called Court of Windward Village. And there's a number of homes in there. I'm just one of them, and I'm not representing anyone other than myself. My concern is at a macro level, we're talking about designing alternate senior housing. And I'm a senior, so I understand that. But on the other hand, when I saw that there was going to be an additional 4,400 square feet added, and that the garage was being torn down and the patio was being torn down, I was concerned that this is not appropriate for a zoning where we're talking about individual housing, which is there currently. My concern at a macro level, again, is that if we allow this to happen in Milton, which I guess Alpharetta has already done, there could be an exposure or precedent set that we could do this anywhere. And that's inappropriate, in my opinion, because we have to be very careful with our neighborhoods that we don't destroy or change the way they're structured, especially for individuals, families that are living in the area or right next door. My other concern is that there was talk about 4 handicap spaces being used. I guess my mother's been retired, I've been retired, my mother-in-law is. When you talk about this kind of senior housing, you're not only talking about 1 or 2 parking spaces or 3 or 4. Usually everyone wants a car, right, that lives there? So we're talking about 15 people having car spaces, and then we're talking about 4 handicapped, and then you have people working there, right? How many people are going to work there? He said 10. So usually that's about 2 or 3 at a time. So now we're up to, 25 parking spaces? And where are those going to go in a small lot like this? That's why they're asking for the zoning variance. And that's the concern that I have as a resident, is that this was really not designed for this. And even though Alpharetta's doing it or done it, I would be very careful and would ask for consideration that it be very, very careful on all of your part to determine whether or not we should allow this. And that's my request.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, just a brief point of order, and of course, all the citizen comments are welcome and informative to the council, but I do just want to remind the council and the gallery that right now this is public comment mainly on the deferral. If in fact the council goes forward with the public hearing, there will be another complete opportunity for all citizens to engage the council on the merits. Just want to remind the council and the gallery.
Thank you.
I understand that, and that's appropriate.
Stand.
Will you please call the next speaker?
Thank you, Mayor. That next speaker is Dave Drennan. Please come to the podium.
Hi, my name is Dave Drennan. I live at 770 Barbary Drive here in Milton, and I'll do my best to contain it to the deferral. I appreciate the opportunity to speak here this evening. In regards to the deferral, and I made these same comments at the Planning Commission meeting. When I first heard about this, I dug into this Deerfield form-based code. I had no idea what it was. It's a 60-some page document. I think it was created back in 2015. And in that code, it clearly says in T2, which this property is in, it's a very restrictive area. So as far as the deferral goes, we could defer this, but the reality is we're talking T2 here. And if the intent is to put a 15-bedroom additional structure on that lot on a septic system, and I live on a septic system, so I know what this is about, I don't know that a deferral is really necessary. I think just on the merits of T2 being very restrictive, and I'll just say this, the T2 zoning suggests that even if I, as a resident there, wanted to put an accessory building on my property, I could do that, but it would be limited to 440 square feet of habitable space. And what's been presented previously was 4,100 square feet and 15 bedrooms on the septic system. So again, this can be deferred if you choose, but putting a structure of any type that size and scale on a septic system, and again, at the Planning Commission meeting, people asked the question, so I dug into it. Georgia regulations suggest that you have to have 250 gallons capacity per bedroom. And if you do the math, and if you have disposals and things on it, then it increases it by 50%. So the septic tank could be 5,000 to 6,000 square feet, requiring hundreds and hundreds of drain fill. And that's where the issue starts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I'd like to call Claire Sullivan to the podium, please.
I'm Claire Sullivan. I live at 13297 Regent Trace. And I am not here to talk about the variances, but rather about the use permit, which I think is something that he still would need to get. So I think it's okay for me to talk on that. Anyway, I wanted to talk to you about this alternative senior housing. This terminology is not found at either the federal or Georgia state level, or in fact in any town or city in Georgia except Milton. Both the federal government and Georgia state government recognize personal care homes, assisted living facilities, and skilled nursing facilities as being the only types of senior residential facilities available. There is one facility in Dacula that uses this terminology, but then goes on to state on its website that it is actually an assisted living facility. In this case, the applicant's other facility, Mayfield Oaks on Mayfield Road, calls itself on its website a personal care home. Note also that the applicant will have to apply to the state for a license to run a personal care home. So note too that the city of Dacula does not have the terminology alternative senior housing in their municipal code. However, that terminology was added to the Milton Municipal Code in December of 2015. It apparently gave someone the ability to get around the fact that the Deerfield form-based code clearly states that, quote, assisted living, convalescent home, personal care home, nursing home, hospice, unquote, are specifically excluded from zone T2, quote, by right, by warrant, or by use permit. So I wanted also to talk to you about the character of the T2 zone. It's a, quote, rural zone consisting of sparsely settled lands in open or cultivated states. These include woodland, agricultural land, grassland, and irrigable desert. Typical buildings are farmhouses, agricultural buildings, and cabins, unquote. In addition, the Deerfield form-based code also states that the T2 zone is, quote, restricted residential, quote, with, quote, up to 2 bedrooms for lodging permitted, quote, that the, quote, lot must be owner occupied, quote, and that, quote, office use is restricted to home occupations by the owner with no more than 1 employee, unquote. So I'm asking you to not defer this to May so much as to eliminate it, because I don't believe that it meets the letter of the, or spirit of the zoning code for what is expected in a T2 area. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I'd like to next call Alex Baugh. Am I saying that correctly? I'm sorry. Barr, to the podium.
Hello, my name is Alex Barr. I'm with Miles Hancher Talent. Our address is 202 Triple Gap Road, Georgia 30040. So I know that there were some concerns about the deferment letter. We're meeting with Robin McDonald and Joe Stapleton this week on Wednesday to discuss the variances, if there's ways that we can not have to ask for them, and to talk about any concerns that the residents have to eliminate these. So can I yield the rest of my time until public comment if necessary? Or any questions?
Not in this context. I mean, because this is, if the council goes forward with the public hearing, obviously he's going to be able to come back and present on behalf of his client.
Correct. Right now, it's just a general public comment on the deferment.
Does anybody have any questions about the deferment?
We're going to close the public hearing after that, and then we can talk to our city attorney on
Perfect.
that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mayor, I'd like to next call Jim Boyle to the podium.
Good evening, council. My name is Jim Boyle. I'm a resident of Milton. I live at 13935 Bellaterre. I also happen to work in Milton. You met Billy Lowe here. He opened the session, I believe, in prayer. I'm on staff at City Church, and then I happen to have a business for a personal care home in Alpharetta, which was mentioned. The reason we are requesting the deferral is we've made a considerable effort to meet with all relevant stakeholders in the process so that we understand what concerns there might be, and we make sure that we deal with them in a manner which is acceptable to the greatest number of parties. We have requested a meeting, and the first date that was able to be found was a meeting on Wednesday with Fire Marshal, City Planning, City Building. There may be some others involved, but for purposes of trying to look at the range of topics and make sure that we can come forward with a proposal that meets both the intent of the city when it comes to development of senior housing. It's a need that's clearly stipulated in the 2040 plan. I think it was probably anticipated in the creation of the alternative senior living category. And so we want to make sure that we are able to comply with both the letter and the spirit of the law. We have made a couple of proposals in different hearings and made note of the objections, and we're working to remedy those to the best that we can. I think it would be in the interests of the city and the community to defer this so that we can come forward with a proposal that both meets the expressed needs of the city, again, as stipulated in the 2040 plan, but also is, to the extent that I doubt everybody is ever satisfied with one concept, but to the extent that we can satisfy all of the relevant stakeholders. And we are in dialogue actively with neighbors. I know there's a number of folks here that wanted to comment in their deferral comments about why this should be turned down because it's not suitable. I didn't bring, but we could have brought a list of neighbors in those same areas that were prepared to speak, on behalf of this. So the only reason I raised that is that I came prepared to speak about deferral, and there is, I think there's good reason and good cause for deferral.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I'd like to invite Ms. Mary Cronk to the podium, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Mary Cronk, and I live at 600 Hickory Mill Lane. My comments this evening surround the intent of text amendments 64-1844 Alternative Senior Housing, which was approved by Council in December of 2015. In my comments, I'm going to be referencing and showing some archived City Council meeting document packets that I found in the agendas and meetings link on the website. I thought it would be helpful because a lot of us don't know, how did this thing come about? And here's the executive summary that kind of shows us how this came about. And it's not very readable. That better? Okay. And I'm just going to read a little bit.
Ms. Cronk, we're having a little technical difficulty on our screens.
Oh, okay.
But I would like to see what you have there, so.
Okay. I'll read it.
Yeah.
Go ahead and read it.
Is that okay?
It's okay with me. It's okay with you guys. Got to put these on. Since the incorporation of the city in 2006, staff has received numerous inquiries regarding the use of single-family homes as personal care homes, which we are calling alternative housing for seniors. And this is back from 2015, okay? Currently, the zoning ordinance does not permit this type of use within the city. Staff presented the idea of establishing a new use permit to allow alternative housing for seniors at the September 14, 2015 council work session. After presenting the current code and possible addition of the use, council directed staff to create a new use permit. There's an additional comment of staff met with social workers from North Fulton Senior Services who discussed what they believe the needs are for seniors in this area. And then there was a larger demand for smaller residential type facilities for seniors. So following the city's process, after this portion, we go to the Planning Commission. You probably won't be able to see this one too well either. But staff showed a chart with other jurisdictions and whether they allowed these types of personal care homes and the maximum numbers of residents they allowed. And you can see that they go from 3, 4, 6, and 8, and these were Alpharetta, different areas there. So then after that, Planning Commission gave their feedback. And their feedback was that they recommended that the owner of the property should be on site, that they recommended no more than 4 residents in the facility, and that the Planning Commission recommended a minimum of 3 acres in size for a facility. They also said that if a property owner does not reside on site, they would not be in support of this type of use because it became a commercial use in a residential area. Staff also made some recommendations. And the staff recommendations, and I won't put these up because you guys won't be able to see them. The staff recommendations were for 6 residents maximum, and they did not require a minimum lot size. So after that, the first presentation was made on December 7th, and that had the proposed text amendment. And in that first proposed text amendment, there were 6 as a maximum on December 7th. And there was a minimum property size of 3 acres. After that, there was a work session with council. And after that point, they then came up with the second revision to the text amendment. And the important thing to note on this second revision was that now the number of residents were not to exceed 8. Now we're going to go to what we have currently. And what we have currently, there is no maximum number of residents in that text amendment. So in between December of 2015 and now, something changed to get rid of that number of maximum. And my concern at this point is, are we really adhering to the intent of this amendment? When we look at this, with 15 residents, this facility appears to be more of a commercial business operating in a residential area than it is a residential home. And I would like to ask
1 minute
council to
remains.
seriously consider what that maximum number of residents should be. Thank you for your time. Sorry for the AV technical difficulties.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mayor, I'd like to call Ms. Michelle Weston to the podium. This is our final comment.
Thank you.
And I've never done this. Everybody's so good at that. Greg, the button at the top.
The button
Button at the top. All the way up top, roll that.
Good evening, Council. My name is Michelle Weston. I live at 14835 East Bluff Road. My husband and I also own a home located at 13287 Regent Trace, and this property shares a property line with 13275 Cogburn Road. We purchased the home on Regent Trace as a primary residence for my grandfather. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the council this evening. I oppose the proposed use permit, and therefore I believe it's okay for me to speak now also in opposition of a deferral, since regardless of the status of the variance request, I oppose the request for a use permit. I oppose it as an adjacent property owner concerned about potential impacts on my right to quiet use and enjoyment of my property, but I also oppose it more broadly as a Milton resident concerned about the standard that would be created for future similar use permit applications if this current application is approved. As an adjacent property owner, I share the concerns voiced by other nearby property owners regarding the proposed intensity of use for the parcel and the negative impacts it may have on our enjoyment of our property and our property values in the long term. I also believe the proposed use of this parcel goes against the intent behind the zoning the city established for this area, specifically as a T2 rural lot. As Claire Sullivan mentioned previously in her comments to the council, the T2, the transect zone within the Deerfield form-based code, is designated as rural. I don't understand how a 15-bedroom, 15-plus bath home on a 1.5-acre lot on a private septic system could fit within this rural character designation. The proposed use of this lot is for a commercial operation so intense it necessitates several concurrent variance requests to eliminate 40 to 50% of the required property line setbacks for that zone. And while the proposed commercial use will maintain the appearance of a single-family home, it will have so many daily inhabitants and visitors that the proposed site plan, or at least one of the proposed site plans, because it is an ever-changing site plan, indicates that a commercial-grade septic system and nearly 16,000 square feet and a nearly 16,000 square foot drain field would be installed on a 1.5-acre lot. Over the past few months, the applicant has engaged in what seems to me like a game of Tetris. I don't know if everyone gets that reference. I call it Tetris Real Property Edition. To try to repeatedly reconfigure essential components of the proposed site plan to fit within the property line setbacks. And even if the applicant is somehow successful in contorting his building, parking, and massive commercial grade septic system to squeeze them within the required property setbacks, I still don't see how the proposed use of this particular parcel fits within the spirit and intent of the applicable zoning code. I've learned a lot in recent weeks trying to research this issue, and I've learned that density is determined based on the number of structures, or as it is called in the code, building units per acre on a given parcel, not by the number of individuals that will be using it.
1 minute remains.
When the number of individuals inside a building approaches 20 on a daily ongoing basis, though, it seems disingenuous at best to disregard the impact that that density will have on a property and its surrounding community. The chart I've put up is a chart showing, and can you all see it? Have your screens haven't improved?
No.
I'm happy to pass it around after I've made my comments if that would be helpful. But what the chart is showing is other personal care homes in Milton. And I found these homes, they've been licensed by the state agency that licenses and regulates personal care homes. There is one on Ranchette Road. It is a personal care home, it's licensed as such. It is licensed for a capacity of up to 12 individuals. It is on septic, but it is on 2.8 acres.
Time has expired.
Would you like to, council, okay with extending 2 more minutes?
Sure.
Yes.
I
Thank
would
you.
request that you make a motion and second.
Okay.
Make a motion that we extend public comment for an extra couple of minutes.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. There we go.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your indulgence. Thank you. Oh, I lost my, there it goes. So there is this one other home. It has a licensed capacity of 12 within Milton, but it's on a 2.8 acre lot, which is almost twice the size of the item on the agenda. The other few homes that there's one on Providence Road. It is licensed for up to 4. Also it's on a 1 acre lot on septic. And then there are 2 homes that are licensed as community living arrangements. One is on Cogburn Road, right up the road from the current application. That is licensed for 3 individuals. That is on a 1.5 acre lot, just under 1.5 acre on septic. And the last one that I was able to find licensed in Milton is for a community living arrangement. It is on Regent Trace, my street, in the same community. It is licensed for 4 people. It is on a smaller lot, not quite 1/5 of an acre, if I'm doing my math right, which is, okay. And it is on sewer, however. So it's on a much smaller lot, but it is on sewer. So I would like you to look at, this is what we have existing. Quite different from what's proposed on the parcel we're discussing today. Looking beyond the immediate term, I would urge council to carefully consider the standard you would establish beyond this immediate application if council approves this permit, this use permit at this density of individuals as opposed to buildings. What about the next application the city would receive by this applicant or another? I'm sure you realize there will be others, and you will be hard pressed to object to one of similar intensity of use if you approve this one. I would
Time
also.
has expired.
Oh,
Are you okay? Yeah, how much more you got?
I'm 2 more paragraphs.
All right, we'll give you another 2 more minutes.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve 2 more minutes maximum.
All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Thank you so much for your kindness. I appreciate it. I would just note, my position on this matter has been consistent from the beginning of this process. Yes, as an adjacent property owner, I'm concerned about my personal property interests, and as a Milton resident, I'm concerned about development in our city overall. I believe that the approval of this use permit would set an unacceptable standard of permissible density on a 1.5 acre lot on septic zoned as rural. However, as a Milton resident, also recognizing the desirability of smaller residential home-like settings for senior living, I could understand allowing a use permit for a single-family home to accommodate a smaller number of residents, similar to the numbers originally contemplated by the city when the city was developing section 64-1844, which was 6 to 8 individuals, as Mary touched upon in her comments, Mary Cronk. I want to thank you for this opportunity to share my concerns. I would make 2 final notes. One is that a sign which is supposed to be posted on the property required by section 64-2082, sections D, subsections D and E, the sign is not posted, and it has not been posted for several days. I think that's important to note in terms of public notice. And I would also like to note that those of us who are very concerned about this matter are not clear on the process. In the event of deferral, we want to preserve our right to speak in the future, particularly if this goes through another iteration with the site plan, et cetera. So I thank you all very much for your time and the extra time.
Thank you, appreciate it. Okay, no more public, or no more
That concludes
speakers?
the public comment. Mayor.
Okay, so I will close the public hearing and questions, discussion on the deferral?
Questions for staff or for the applicant?
Just for staff, because we closed the public hearing.
Okay.
The only issue before us right now is the deferral. If the council decides to go forward, then really we rev up the whole machinery of the public hearing again.
The reason I'm pausing and a bit troubled by that is there are some key questions I would like to have answered, probably by the applicant, to better understand the purpose behind the deferral. At this point, we received the deferral letter that was only the statement of the request, but not for the rationale behind it. When you've got the community assembled this evening in significant number, they've all made rational and reasonable presentation to us on things that concern them without the benefit of hearing from the applicant what the reason behind the deferral is, so that I can understand that in good faith, they are not just trying to extend the number of times that the community has to assemble to speak in opposition or in favor, for that matter, so we can get a fair hearing on both sides. But also that the rationale is meaningful to moving the process forward. If there are conditions that are not likely going to change, that are currently, in my mind, significant when you're addressing the concerns of the community, a deferral may not help overcome those issues. If it is an unchangeable fact, it's an unchangeable fact. If we're not negotiating in good faith, or there's nothing else in motion to make those changes, I think a hearing should be, should take place this evening, a full-blown hearing.
Councilman Moore.
There's one more quick comment, just as for process. I don't think anybody should ever come expecting a deferral just because one is requested. Anybody, whether it's applicant or whether it's the community, should assemble in mind that a deferral is a request, not necessarily, and we oftentimes grant a deferral in good faith, but if there's not good rationale behind it, we should all be prepared to conduct a full-blown hearing. I just offer that for consumption as a matter of process.
My only really 2 cents real quick is the applicant, I guess, did say they were working to get rid of the variances. So yeah, I think they are kind of working in good faith, and I think we will have the public hearing for sure, whether it's May 2nd, if we defer it. So Ken, what were you going to say?
The only point I was going to make, I agree, Mr. Mayor, with what you said. Councilmember Moore, of course, I understand your comments very well. And sort of when there's a request for deferral, whether it's just to play the clock or whether it's a deferral really to derive meaningful input, reconfigure the plan, take away variances, sort of that's one of those we just don't know until you get a sense for what the applicant says. I would only offer up that outside the context of public comment, it would be in order. It would be in order if the council has questions as to the need, wants to dig a little further into the questions for the deferral. I believe the applicant and the attorney are here. You have every right to ask them to come up and perhaps explain themselves a little more. And that would be in order, even if we are going to ultimately defer. Council has the right to get answers to the questions.
So a question that, do we have to open back the public hearing?
No, sir.
We don't?
You have the right
Okay.
just to simply ask the applicant to come up and answer a question of the council.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I'd be okay with that. And I'll give you an example of one of the reasons I'm concerned is I've looked at the property carefully and I looked at the things that have been presented to us as the current variances requested. And I'm not convinced that this is anything more than 10 pounds of opportunity on a 5-pound lot. And I don't know that a reiteration, a rewiggling of one thing or another is going to make any significant change. Unless there's something I'm not thinking about that would offer a significant change to the application, which then might prompt a withdrawal of the current application because it would be a different kind of application if it were going to be something markedly different. I'm not so sure that a deferral accomplishes that either. So I would like the chance to ask either the applicant or his attorney, his or her attorney to.
Ken, we don't need to vote on that or anything.
No, I think that's simply a function of the mayor asking them to approach.
Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity to answer any specific questions. I can comment or I can respond to specific questions.
We'll do specific
It
questions.
would be in order for there to be
Yes.
specific questions, not just general
I'm not
comments.
interested in the presentation. I'm only interested in answering questions.
Councilmember Moore?
So I guess my first question to you is, in the fact that you're suggesting that the variances could go away, is there something remarkably different, either in the reconfiguration of the lot or of the intended placement of some of these things that are a concern that would mitigate the reasons to go into the undisturbed buffers, et cetera, to grant you the opportunity to go forward with the deferral to make those accommodations?
Of course, thanks for the question. We are evaluating several different options. We are in discussion with neighbors in terms of property acquisition, which could change the geography of the property. So that's outside of discussions with city and that property owner is here. I don't know if they care to speak to that, but that's in process. We've requested a meeting with, and I could ask Robin McDonald to help me name the right people correctly, but we have met with the city architect. We've asked for an additional meeting with city architect head of building, Robin, in terms of planning and zoning, to look at different building configurations that satisfy all the relevant stakeholders. It is not only that we have to make sure that we can eliminate potential variances, but they have to be things that are also acceptable to, for example, the fire marshal, and so on. So the effort was to get the relevant staff members in the city of Milton together in the same conversation, so that we could understand how to balance and satisfy the various requests with the expressed intention of eliminating to the greatest extent that we can, because I don't want to come back in here and say we still don't, or that we still have a variance, and that I'd stated here that we wouldn't. I think I just confused that, but I hope you know what I meant. So we are attempting to meet with staff to understand how we can comply with zoning code and yet avoid any variances. That's plan A, and then plan B, as I said, is we're working with neighbors to see if there could be something done that would eliminate, variances on that side. So I hope I answered your question, but if I didn't, please.
Well, the most important part that I heard, or the most significant part that I heard, was that you're talking to a potential acquisition with the adjacent neighbor. Without more detail about what it is that you're intending to adjust or measure or consider with staff. Staff can't make the property any bigger. They can't.
May I? So staff has given us some recommendations on a potential layout that would eliminate, I don't want to mischaracterize the input by staff. We met with the city architect, and he made some observations of some building placement / development that would allow us to do what we wanted to do without requesting a variance. We need to be able to sit down with the, and again, I can't name the names, I'm sorry, I just don't have the names off the top of my head, but to sit down with the several people and say, okay, is this practical, and can this satisfy, can this satisfy a fire marshal, because there are fire marshal concerns, and and so on that we have to satisfy. So my intention was, I probably started with the wrong part first. Our intention is, and that meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, our intention is to sit down with staff and rework a proposal that is acceptable to the city. And so basically, my hope, not my promise, my hope is that what I would come to you with is a request for a use permit that is not encumbered by requests for variances. I can't promise that, but that's the expressed intent of the meeting that we would be having.
So is your intent, are you the owner of the property?
We're not an owner. We have a contract on the property.
Okay, so
we have a contract to purchase. It's contingent upon getting relevant approvals.
Yep, I understand. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of complicated items that you've shared without going into a full-blown hearing. For example, it's a contract contingent upon the sale of the property to you to bring this business forward. So it's intended to operate really as a full-blown business on the site, something that's possibly, or not possibly, is, in my mind, inconsistent with the intended use in T2. T2 does allow for some consideration of use of this type. Let me finish my thought. And so I think about some of the things that have been shared by the public, which I'm sure staff would correct me if I would make a misstatement on this too. And that is, if it's more intense use than designed currently today by our code, which is X number of beds versus the number of beds you're proposing, again, that's not something that a deferral is going to overcome, probably, if it's a more intense use from that standpoint. With the current I sat recently in a public event after our last council meeting on the patio out to the side of the building, and I listened to the real estate community speak to us about the significance of the demand in the area for residential housing and how the market demand is far exceeding the availability of residential property. So with that being a serious consideration about what's going on in the marketplace, I'm not convinced that there's any potential hardship that we're imposing on a homestead where the owner is intending to sell anyway. They could potentially sell it as a residential use, and we don't have to even consider a business use in this area. It's supposed to be a transitional area, but a residential use and continuation there, in my mind, is a perfectly good use in a market that's underserved today by availability of residences for sale.
So if I may, I mean, the council established, so a number of the comments, and I was not my intention to get into a technical debate on factually a fair amount of what was presented to you. Some of it's factually correct, some of it's factually incorrect. I mean, you know, some of the charts and things, and we can certainly clarify that at a certain point in time. But that, I don't think that's the intention here. That there is under the zoning code that the city of Milton established, there was there's a method and a process, and it says T2 zoning. There is a desire to establish this, or the council adopted language to say alternative senior living, as well as churches and a series of other uses were permissible with a use permit. And so it's our intention to go forward with that use permit that I understand from both the 2040 plan, as well as council's adoption of this specific area to be compatible with council's desire for use of property. What I'm attempting to do is, by working with city staff and our architects in a way that, and also in dialogue with neighbors, to address any concerns that neighbors have about the property. So it's of course I'm biased, but I do believe it's in Milton's interests to establish additional senior beds. And so this process of by allowing the deferral, it allows us to come forward with a proposal that would, on its face, would eliminate the concerns that we've heard expressed, at different levels, that the council and the zoning, or the zoning commission, or the planning commission, and design review board look unfavorably upon variance requests. Okay, we're going to work to try to remove those, but actually in the yeah.
Thank you. Paul, do you have any more questions?
I do. Okay. Actually, maybe even several now as a result of the additional information.
But I mean, is it in relation to the deferral, or because we can, if you want to go into a public hearing, we can go into the public hearing, but I think this is a question on a deferral.
I understand.
Okay.
The part that I'm still struggling with is there the true grounding for the granting of deferral that will make the variances go away? And so we have three paths. You can vote for a deferral, or you can, let me say it. You have two paths: vote for a deferral or not for a deferral, I guess, in this point. If we go to public hearing, you have a choice of affirm, deny, defer, or withdraw. And where I'm going with this is, if there are these kinds of significant things that are happening, it may actually better serve everyone if they withdraw their request tonight and make another application that's more appropriate with some of these things having been measured. That you begin the process.
I'm not sure how we're withdrawing,
could you clarify that?
Well, a couple thoughts. First of all, I would just respectfully ask that unless you're asked a question, just to let the council sort of deliberate. So that would be, that's okay. I'm just trying to be fair to everybody. Secondly, whether they want to withdraw the application is, of course, completely up to them. I would submit to you that if there is in fact additional land added to this development, that to me smacks of a new application altogether, because we've not even advertised for those tax parcels, nor does the application include those tax parcels within it. So I would suggest that as well. I would also say we have maybe a fourth option, Councilmember Moore, which would be that if the council held the public hearing but deferred the decision. However, if in fact the site plan gets reconfigured or there's substantive changes, I'm probably going to recommend yet another public hearing anyway.
Yeah, see, that's where I'm struggling, is it sounds, with the information I have to work with, recognizing that we're bound by this current path, is there something, in my mind, I'm not convinced that the resolution is going to be a simple adjusting of a couple of feet here, a couple of feet there to resolve the issue with the current property. It's been the way it's been proposed. Without the acquisition of the property next door, I'm not convinced that that is going to be resolvable. And then you layer on the fact that the property next door is an AG1 property as well. I think if I'm not mistaken, it's a horse farm. And I'm burdened by the fact that you're asking me to consider taking a horse farm out of the equation today in Milton, which we're charged with trying to preserve our look and feel of our community. So it's a complicated request for me personally. So that's why I'm struggling with whether or not a deferral is the right thing, when I'm really convinced so far with the information I have to work with that this is probably a larger change than a deferral would accommodate, when it's going to ultimately be another kind of application with the adjustments that are required.
If the only adjustment was the removal of variances, I think the current application could proceed. I'll just restate, if property is added, I think we have to start over.
Councilmember Jacobus?
I have the same issue. I don't see, under what's been submitted, how a deferral is going to solve the issue that bothers me about approval of this request. So if there's not additional land going with this to make it, to my mind, more workable, I don't see where a deferral does us any good.
I mean, I personally have no issue with the deferral for the May 2nd meeting. You're working at least a good faith effort. I don't really have an opinion right now on your use permit and the variances. I really have an opinion on the deferral. And my opinion is that you're working at least in the good faith effort on that. And that's all I can say. Council?
Can I ask a question?
Sure, yeah.
So for the deferral, the land that you're looking to acquire, how much additional land is it? I don't know if you mentioned that.
So the deferral, I confused the matter by referring to the acquisition. The meeting that we are requesting the deferral specifically for purposes of meeting on Wednesday with city staff to review the concept, that there was a concept that was discussed that eliminated any variance requests. But we need to make sure that we understand, rather than taking it piecemeal, because it's not just inputs on zoning and buffer variance. It's also, we have to satisfy fire marshal and so on. So the purpose of the meeting was to have the relevant stakeholders in a room to make sure that the new concept, which eliminated any of the variance requests, would satisfy all of the stakeholders, to all of the staff stakeholders to the process. And that's the purpose of the meeting on Wednesday. And so that we believe, but I'm reluctant to categorically assert that we will come back with a proposal that is simply for a use permit. And I think I even stated this a couple of times already, a use permit unencumbered by any requests for concurrent variances. That's our intention. But I could give you specific details. I don't know that would help clarify any of this, where the apron is, on the property. Can that be moved? Can that apron be moved, 50 feet down the property, so that it is not, in a restricted or in a, required undisturbed buffer. So, I mean, there's just some practical details that are necessary to be worked out, and wasn't possible to do that before this hearing tonight. So again, our intention, not a categorical promise, but our intention is to come back with a use permit for this same use, but unencumbered with buffer variance requests.
And you had mentioned there's a possible reconfiguration. Would that reduce the number of residents in the facility?
It does not reduce it does not reduce the number of residents. It is, the building size would be comparable to building size, other homes within Milton. And like I said,
Multi-story?
Yeah, we're fully compatible in terms of, but this is, we just have to work through, okay, we're not going above 2 stories. We don't have, we don't go over a certain impervious, surface area. And again, it's not the intention that this is not to present. I wouldn't proceed and continue to spend money if I didn't think that, it was possible and practical, because every time the architect touches drawings and civil engineers touch drawings, of course, that's expensive, and there's no value in drawing out the process. We agree that the best way to proceed is, let's just have everybody in the room. Let's look at the drawings. Let's see if this is possible. And it appears that it is, but that's, I can't speak on behalf of the fire marshal, on behalf of so on. And I don't want to put everything on the shoulders of the fire marshal. That's just the name that comes to mind. So,
okay.
Any other questions for council or discussion?
I just offer one more comment. I sincerely appreciate the effort that you're trying to make in working with staff. And that's of course, an important part of this. I would have hoped that you might have been able to work through some of those things. I don't know whose schedules were not able to make it work prior to this meeting. Like I said in my opening comments, a deferral should never be expected. It's, if the community assembles, we should be prepared to go forward with a full-blown hearing. One of the things I also heard you just say, I think is it Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Boyle, is that the intensity of the use, which is the 15 beds, is not going to change. And that's still a problem for me when I hear what some of our other number of beds are in the community and some of the intended use, especially with as much residential demand as there is. I'm not sure that a commercial use of this kind is the right outcome for that. So I'm still in favor of.
I appreciate your point, Councilmember Moore, and I will just say I'm okay with the deferral. You're working in the good faith effort. I won't tell you how I feel right now on this use permit. I'll say that at a public hearing, whether that's in about 5 minutes or on May 2nd. But I'm okay with that. I know we've done this plenty of times before. We have deferred people numerous times, only when they are working in good faith effort to make it work for the citizens for a better outcome. Sometimes it doesn't work out like that, and we'll make that decision. So if that's all said, I would like to open it for a motion on this agenda item. I don't even think I can make the motion. Am I allowed to make? I'll make the motion if I'm allowed to.
Mayor, you are allowed to make the motion.
Okay, I would like to make a motion to defer agenda item to defer agenda item number 22-111 to the May 2nd council meeting.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Aye.
Did you say nay or
I said
aye?
nay.
Okay, so we will now go on to the public hearing, correct? Zoning item?
The request for.
Oh, actually, we need to.
Needs to be acted upon.
Correct.
At this point, we simply have a motion that has failed
Okay, so now we have to need a motion to,
deny the deferral.
okay.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we deny the request for deferral.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Moore, a second from Councilmember Jacobus to deny the deferral. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Aye.
Aye.
3-2. So the motion, so now
Move to the zoning
Agenda
procedure
item
law
number
public hearing. Yes, sir.
22-111. I will like to make a comment that I would like our AV working because that's going to be a big deal.
It's not going to. I'll ask that we take potentially a brief recess. We'll make the copies that you need to have to be able to make the decision you need to make.
How long? 10 minutes or?
I can't imagine it would take more than 10 minutes to make copies.
Okay.
What do you all think? We'll need, well, and
That would be probably more than 10 minutes.
Let's do 15.
50-page document, okay, 25-page document.
Let's do 15 minutes.
Okay.
So, all right, is that okay with the motion on that? All right, I'd like to open it for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we take a 10-minute recess, 15-minute recess, or whatever time requires, staff requires to get the AV working.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Moore and a second from Councilmember Jacobus. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
I'll make it quicker. Let me just confirm.
All right, I will like to take a motion to reconvene.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Councilmember Moore and a second from Councilmember Jacobus to reconvene the council meeting. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that's unanimous. So at this point, we will, Ken, what's the best point of order right now?
It is in order to recognize the applicant through their counsel at this point, let him make some comments to the council. I think they have been informed somewhat by the discussion of the council dealing with the deferral, and I think that has given them maybe a trajectory of where they want to go.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I think it's appropriate.
Council, you all okay with that? All right.
To go.
Thank you. At the request of my client, we believe it's best to withdraw without prejudice at this moment of this application.
Okay, and so withdrawal of prejudice, if Ken, if you can.
Without prejudice.
Without prejudice.
So,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor and members of the council, a withdrawal without prejudice has significant legal meaning within the context of the City of Milton Code and state law. Without prejudice means that the applicant is entitled to immediately reapply again. If it was with prejudice or if this was a denial, there can be as much as a 6-month to a year delay. But if the council specifically says the withdrawal is allowed without prejudice, then the applicant can go back, they can confer, they can do whatever sorts of reconfiguration with respect to property or variances they want to do. Now, they will have to follow the entire process again, from stem to stern, and that includes the notices, CZIM, Planning Commission, everything else, but they can do that immediately. They can commence that process immediately. This will take a motion and vote of the council with the without prejudice language in the motion.
All right, thank you. Discussion from council? If not, I'll open it for a motion.
I'd like to make a comment before the motion. Mr. Attorney, I'm not sure, I didn't catch your name, I'm sorry, but I thank you for your consideration of what we had offered for the number of choices available this evening, and I thank you for being respectful of the council's position this evening, and I think that's a reasonable request, and as such, I make a motion for withdrawal, to allow withdrawal without prejudice.
Second?
Okay, and just to clarify, do we need to add agenda item number 2111 or just?
No, this is
good?
within the
Okay.
context of this zoning item. Yes, sir.
Perfect.
In order.
Okay, so I have a motion from Councilmember Moore and a second from Councilmember Johnson to withdraw without prejudice, agenda item number 22-111. Okay, any discussion on the motion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous.
Thank
Thank you. So for everyone in attendance, that does it for the zoning item. And we will move on to city clerk.
Can you clarify? Just, I know Ken said that, just to clarify for the community who is assembled, they do have to go back through the entire process. So there will be additional postings. Please watch for that. There will be a new sign that will go up. There will be a CZIM, there will be a planning
If they
commission,
decide
et
to go.
cetera. So the
Yeah,
whole
this
process.
zoning item is done.
Right.
Wrong.
Yep.
Done.
All right, so on to mayor and council reports.
Yes, Mayor, thank you.
I have nothing to report on except for I know all of us had a wonderful spring break, including a number of our council members here. So
You look a little tan.
I went to Oregon. I went to Oregon.
You got a little windburn.
I don't know. There's not much sun in Oregon. I don't know.
Just the wind.
We had Las Vegas and we had DC over here, so it was fun.
Nice.
Any council reports? Anybody? Okay. So move on to staff reports. Oh, there's no staff reports.
No staff reports.
So we'll go straight on to executive session. If I'd like to have a motion to adjourn to executive session.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adjourn to executive session.
Second.
All right, Ken, do I need to clarify on what?
That was the agenda header has already clarified. It was for the 3 topics of land acquisition, litigation, and personnel.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Aye. All right. Good night.
We're done.
Good night.
We are going to have a special, we are going to.